We're heading via Zoom now to the United States to catch up with a guy we spoke to a number of months ago, in fact a year or so ago, about a whole host of different things. But what I want to talk to him about this time around is leadership. His name is Eli Harari, and he joins us on TheInformer. How are you, Eli?
Hey, I'm actually doing very well, and the Corona time, I think for those who understand that chaos is the best time to advance, has been the best time for me, bar none.
So basically what you're saying is you're thriving while the rest of the world is in suspended animation.
No, I don't think the rest of the world is. I think people who are actually thinking for themselves, George, are doing very well. Because what we're actually seeing is a very good proof that the world economy is sitting on a rice paper, and people cannot handle things which are out of the comfort zone. We got a little bug coming and telling us all kinds of messages, and I think still nobody's hitting. I have a totally different interpretation.
Eli, what do you think it's telling us, Eli?
What? I'm sorry?
What do you think it's telling us?
Well, it's telling us what are the important things in life. That's the first thing. And it's pointing us that unless humans actually are together, they're dead, they're lost, they're finished. It's showing that the human race has become very selfish and is all into itself. It's not taking care of other people in the proper way. And because of it, it got so familiar that it's not thinking about situations. It's completely mired in its own comfort zone. And most people are just thinking they want to go back to the normalcy of yesterday. I don't think this is on the cards.
Eli, the points that you make are incredibly valid, because all you've got to do is look around you, and you spend most of your day watching people looking at themselves on their devices. Whatever the brand the device is, that's what they're doing. It seems to me that their whole world revolves around this little thing in their hands instead of what's around them and who's standing in front of them. Just as you and I are talking right now, this is one of the most difficult things that people are doing or finding that they have to do in the 21st century. Talk to one another.
Talk to one another, and how about stop dealing with one another in suspicion all the time? How about actually appreciating that when you deal with another human, you're dealing with somebody just like you, with feelings, with worries, with concerns, who needs to talk to somebody who can actually listen to them. In my leadership seminars, one of the things that I see more than anything is that people don't know how to listen to each other. What they do, they have an agenda that they want to speak things, they want to say things, and nobody's listening to one another. And you think, hey, you're looking at another human with different intelligence, with different way of looking at things. You can benefit enormously to give them the space to speak, to be, to express themselves. And you know what? They don't do it. And you think, George, why? Well, I came to a conclusion. This is after meeting many thousands of people, and these days it's through Zoom. I meet a lot of people through Zoom. They just don't think that these things are important, regardless of the fact that 90% of human success is in the ability to deal with one another with the right kind of skills. Only 10%, George, are to do with hard skills, domain skills, which buttons to push and so forth. 90% is what we call soft skills. And you know what? Leaders don't do it. You see it everywhere. They don't even know how to express themselves in a way that the other person feels enlightened and feels cared for. Simple communication, or asking questions like you're asking me and waiting for the answer and promoting the answer. Now, you know that more than anyone, that when you ask questions, you open people up and they respond to you. And then to show them care, you follow up with a question that relates to what they just answered. And guess what? They feel you care. Do you know, George, that most people don't even get close to doing such a simple thing?
I've always been a great believer that talking to people is like, especially if you're going to spend time with them for quite some time, you want to peel back the layers, the complexity, the things that make them different, the things that make the other person that you're speaking to an individual, yeah? And we have created a society that moving at 100 miles an hour, we have very narrow pathways, and unless I'm on that digital pathway with you, I'm going to miss the turn off, or I'm going to miss the alternate option that I have. And that's why I think people feel that they don't have an opportunity to listen anymore. I've got to prepare the answer or the next question so that I can move on to the next subject. And what we're trying to talk about is, and I think it's very important from your perspective, is contact, engagement. Yes? Engagement. Yeah. If we engage, then it means we're being generous enough and open enough with one another. You can't do anything unless you're open.
That's right.
Yeah?
You
know, do you think the American president is being open with his constituents? What are you making? What are you making of America at the moment, Eli?
George, don't get me started there. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's a disgrace what's happening. And for me, I've been in the special forces. I've been an officer, and I tell you, if I would do what Donald Trump does, I would have been dead a long time ago.
Are you saying to me that you don't appreciate your commander in chief?
When I look at what he does and how he carries on, and the guy, sorry to say, and I'm not particularly a Democrat, that's not my persuasion. But when I look at the human being there, and I'm going, what in the world has got into you? Don't you realize that basic respect and a little bit of humbleness and communicating the truth in a way that other people can feel that you care is the key? What the hell are you talking about yourself all day long? Why are you making so much lies up, which anybody can see that?
Eli, he's a perfect example of the person you're talking about.
What?
He's the perfect example of the type of person you don't need to be to get ahead, and yet he has got ahead despite all these inabilities to communicate with people.
Which tells you something. It tells you that the human race is divided because Donald Trump is not the problem. He's the symptom of something. If such a person can be elected by people, you think, what am I not seeing? Okay, what am I not seeing here? What is it that I'm not understanding about the human race that I'm not taking into account? And I think I'm realizing that the human race is divided, George, in such a way that unless some people take it as a job in themselves to be unifiers, no matter what they do, it won't happen. And I'll tell you why I say that. I think that human beings, like you and me, are conduits for things. They're not, it's all about them. 30, 40 years from now, we won't be around. Others will come. What kind of world do we live for them? Those children. We already screwed up the millennials' future by our stupid response to COVID. If you just think about what we're talking about, we're talking, hey, put a mask, keep 6 feet, and wash your hands. Yeah. And everybody's going crazy? What in the world is going on? 6 feet, mask, wash your hands? So, okay, for a while you'll be there at 50 to 60% of what it was. Gradually people will learn to live with it. But everybody's panicking. Close this, close that. They kill people financially. They kill people emotionally. And a whole generation is being wiped out, the younger people, from having a future, just because of panic. A little virus came along and said to us, hey, can you think out of the box? And we all said, no, I can only think in my comfort zone. That's the damning thing about the coronavirus, George. This is what worries me. And my own stance, I can only speak to people from my life. I can be an example. And for me, it's good to do that. And I will stand for what I believe. And I'll tell you what, if Donald Trump sat across from me now, I would be straight into exactly what I'm talking to you about now. No problem. No fear or favor. Because if we don't have courage now to be ourselves, to have that self-leadership, to be who you are no matter what, and you are not perfect, that's okay. If you are perfect, you couldn't develop in this world. Imperfection is actually a blessing. If we can't improve and get better, then what are we doing? And somebody is promoting like they are perfect and everybody else is stupid. What kind of level of leadership is that? And I'm telling you, as a leader in my past, if I'd been like that, I would have been dead because I had to promote trust in my soldiers. And the only way I could have done that is by showing them that I was vulnerable, that I was a human, basic little things, and ask them questions and deal with them. That's the kind of self leadership I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some rocket science.
No, no, no.
I'm talking about being a decent
You talk
human.
about being collegiate. You talk about bringing people together. This is the thing
By
that our
example.
leaders are struggling to do time and time again. We have done a number of editorials on TheInformer, Eli, over the last few weeks, the last few months, and we've said time and time again, be strategic, be long-term, have a plan, and stick to it. Don't waver. We saw New Zealand and its government team take a big risk. They closed down the economy for a number of weeks, and they got the result they wanted, and now they're thriving. Australia tried to do this, that and the other, but we have the problem here with states all wanting to be their own boss, which is an extraordinary inhibitor for a national plan. And you talk about a plan where you lead groups of people to achieve a result or an outcome. And here we are, we can't even do that. And not only that, imagine, Eli, you're midstream in your campaign and you suddenly decide you're going to change your mind and do something totally different. That's crazy. You can't expect to get a positive result out of that, can you?
No, you can't. And by the way, is this George Hazim sitting next to you there?
Yes, he is. He's making as much noise as he possibly can, because as I've said to him on time and time again, this is a team effort. We have a tremendous crew at TheInformer, and everybody plays their part. And we're only as good as the weakest link. Yes or no?
Beautiful. That's absolutely. And you can see that on a highway. If one car is stuck, that's the leader. The weakest link decides the speed of the traffic, not the fact that there's 5,000 other cars going in a normal speed.
Can I ask you something that's been very topical? We saw an extraordinary explosion happen in Beirut yesterday, and it has absolutely decimated one of the most sensitive parts of the city, the port and the immediate region around it. Can you believe that the leaders in that country, the people responsible for looking after 2,720 tons of ammonium nitrate, left it there in the most perilous position, in the most prone position, in the most sensitive part of the city, and thought it's going to be okay? Unfortunately,
I can see that. And firstly, again, my deepest sympathies to Lebanese people. For me, people are people. They are not enemies, never were and never will be. And I happen to know Lebanese people, and I really like their softness and kindness in many ways. So terrible to see it. But yes,
I can say about their leaders?
And I want to say something about, you asked me can I believe it. I can, because people don't know how to think about what is important. And what they do is they promise things and they never follow up on them. Something opposite to what I got to say about George Hazim. In the last year and a half, we've been exchanging emails. He's always been prompt, always answered, and always gave a very straight answer about the situation where the other stuff was lost. I appreciate these kind of things. But most leaders, they don't let you know where things are. They say things and they don't follow up. And this is what I mean by leadership. Exactly. George Hazim answering my emails straightforwardly is leadership in my eyes. It's so simple, George. This kind of thing is keys. We think leadership is a big deal. Do you know, a leader is someone who can talk to you and give you the feeling that you're a worthwhile human being. Full stop. That's it. You know what? If they can do that, I can guarantee you that they're excellent leaders in other fields. But if they can't do that, if they can't relate to you as a human being, how can they relate to a nation which is million human beings? You tell me. Because this is the litmus test. Can you deal with one person like you deal with a nation? Actually, that's the key to communication. People ask me, how do I learn to do crowd communication? You know that better than me, George. You speak to one person like you speak to a nation. and you speak to a nation like you speak to one person. That's the key here. You're talking to them in their living room. You're not trying to do something. There's no technique in this. It's you being you. And when you're you, there's nothing better than that. It's excellent.
I love the fact that you reached out and said, you being you is key. For me, I use the other term, just be authentic.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Authenticity, you see it in children, right?
That's right.
They don't like something, they tell you.
Yeah.
They don't.
That's so true.
They don't
so true.
beat around the bush. So I think a lot of the problems that we have today is that we moved from being human, simple human beings. We moved into being creatures that you don't know anymore. Like, where is the truth anymore these days? It's hiding somewhere. Anybody can sow doubt in anyone else any given time. And you think, what is going on?
Yeah.
Something is going on.
Yeah. Eli,
and I think we're going, yeah,
Eli,
go ahead.
I notice, you asked a question then. Let me try and answer that. On the internet, we have all the answers in the world, but we have no wisdom.
That's right.
So can you leave us with a little bit of wisdom as we finish this segment of The Informer?
My wisdom, my own personal wisdom, is to extend my humanity to whoever I can, because my humanity is the measure of my belief in the God that gave me life. It's as simple as that, because I see that I represent something much higher than me in my living in this earth, and so does every other human. So it goes into deeply into my belief system. That's the only wisdom I have at the moment.
Well, that's a very important quality, to have that deep and abiding love for your fellow man or woman. That is the most important thing, because it shows that you're prepared to share this world with others and not want to just claim it for yourself. And that's another thing that we see way too much of, don't we?
George, we're not owners. We're just guests on this planet. And as guests, we need to respect this place and leave it better than we got it. We act like a proud owners of an earth that hosts us, and we're not.
Yeah. Eli Harari, thank you for joining us on The Informer. Let's do this again in a few months, okay?
Okay, most welcome. Take care.
Best.
Goodbye, guys.
Eli Harari on The Informer.